Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know, I know. You think now to betray me.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
By the gods, fear it, Lawrence.
It had to come around one of these days. Vampire talks about blood. Unavoidable, honestly. But with Jacksepticeye announcing recently that he will be producing the animated R-rated Bloodborne movie, I really felt like I had to. Plus, I love Bloodborne, even if I struggle to be able to play it, because Sony refused to port it to PC, despite the fact that they would earn lots of money from it. Please, Sony, I need to play this game so badly. Anyway, Bloodborne. The game certainly lives up to its name. Every entity, every creature, every eldritch abomination, all of it is born from the blood. Yharnam itself could be seen as being born from the blood, having been brought out of obscurity due to the invention of blood ministration, and now being known only for its miraculous healing blood. But what is that blood, really? What makes the old blood so miraculous in the first place? One thing can be immediately discerned about the old blood. It is not human. Human blood does not have these healing properties, nor does it cause these mutations. This blood comes from beyond physical realms, beyond mortal understanding, beyond humanity itself. Or rather, it would have. You see, the Healing Church is not as merciful as it would seem on the surface. Beneath the benevolent blood ministration and kind scholars is a basement filled with many skeletons. Or rather, a spider corpse and an incredibly weak great one. This catacomb hidden under the great cathedral houses Ebrietas, the daughter of the cosmos, a great one who was too weak to be able to leave this corporeal realm alongside her peers, and was hence caught by the Healing Church, where her blood has been siphoned and used in the practice of blood ministration. That's right, this entire time, from the first cutscene of the game to every heal you used, you have been injecting Great One blood directly into you, and so has everyone else in Yharnam. It's what causes the beastliness in them all. And I do very much mean all, as throughout the night of Bloodborne, even random people who never leave their houses succumb to the old blood, and interacting with their doors or windows later into the night, once the blood moon rises, will result in only panting and howls. In the most extreme case, Gilbert, the very first NPC the player can meet outside of the Hunter's Dream, fully transforms and breaks out of his house, savagely attacking the player with no sense of self remaining. But not all are affected by the old blood in the same way. Most notably, women seem to be unaffected by the general beastly forms, save for a few major exceptions, and instead gain a general aggression until they've assimilated enough of it to evolve into something entirely inhuman, like Vicar Amelia. it's not exactly explained why this happens, but looking into Victorian practices, we can find that people of the time believed periods to be a process in which toxins were bled out of the body, a theory that led into the historical practice of leeching, wherein blood was removed from the body in an attempt to cure illness. By integrating this particular thinking into our study, we can infer that the reason women seem to have a particular immunity to the beastly nature of the old blood, because they bleed out the toxins that come with it, and thus require a much heavier dosage to be affected in the same way that men are. Let's take a moment to go over what I just said moments ago. Evolve. No, that wasn't just a way of phrasing it. The Healing Church didn't just have shady practices, they also had ulterior motives. As we've already seen, excessive indulgence in the old blood leads to the loss of your humanity, initially in your cognizance, but eventually overtaking your entire form, leading to the beasts that roam Yharnam throughout the game. At this point, the creatures are typically too far gone to be able to continue injecting blood, relying on only base instincts and heavy aggression. However, if one was to be given assistance from the outside, and perhaps a few extra ingredients, then their progression would continue, and they would become less and less human and more Great One. And this is how the scholars of Byrgenwerth created kin, such as Rom, the vacuous spider, although it is also possible that Rom's ascension to this state was carried out directly by the Great One known as Kos. It should also be noted the process is more often than not met with failure. Let's pause for a minute. The scholars of Byrgenwerth? I know this part was called Byrgenwerth, but what even is that? Rest assured, dear viewer, I have you covered. You see, Byrgenwerth College was founded by a man known as Provost Willem, transforming his mansion into a place of learning and study on the Great Ones and the Old Blood, as he attempted to become a Great One himself, trying to add eyes inside his brain that he claimed would allow him to do so. Alongside this change came numerous students, all arriving to study with Master Willem, and for a long time, there was prosperity, and even an expansion with the building of the research hall in an unknown location. But all good things must come to an end, and when Lawrence and some other Byrgenwerth scholars discovered the mystical healing properties of the old blood, they decided to leave Byrgenwerth and form the Healing Church, a move which Provost Willem saw as a betrayal, completely cutting off connection between the two factions. Now, this is where I become truly topical to this game. Vile Bloods are Bloodborne's equivalent of vampires, and they came to be when a rogue Byrgenwerth scholar brought a sample of forbidden blood out of the Chalice dungeons to Canehurst, giving it to Queen Annalise, who imbibed it and became the first Vile Blood, gaining immortality. From Annalise, the rest of Canehurst imbibed blood, becoming further generations of Vile Bloods. However, at the time of the game, all of the Vile Bloods, with the exception of Annalise, have been exterminated by Logarius, and Annalise herself is sealed away. Annalise gives the player the offer to join her covenant, and, if they agree to do so, she gives them the quest to find blood dregs, which can only be found if the player equips the Corruption Carol rune. It can also be noted that Vile Bloods can find blood dregs regardless of this rune, so their blood is most likely already considered corrupted due to the forbidden blood they imbibed to become Vile Bloods. The reason Annalise wants these blood dregs is because she seeks to birth a child of blood, which can be presumed to be the child of a Great One, as they are known to lose their children and seek surrogates, shown to occur with Queen Yharnam and Ariana in the game. I should start this section with a clarification, because FromSoft games like to get confusing with their terminology. In Bloodborne, there is pale blood and pale blood. Pale blood, as a single word, refers to the moon presence that was summoned by Lawrence, and currently entraps Gehrman in the Hunter's Dream, whereas pale blood, as two words, describes the state in which one's blood would be after injecting oneself with too much of the old blood, as seen with Provost Willem and kin such as the Celestial Emissary. Here I seek to talk about pale blood, the moon presence. In order to discover pale blood in the first place, the player needs to find and consume 3 of the third of umbilical cord items, refuse Gehrman's offer, and then defeat Gehrman. These third of umbilical cords can be found by killing Murgo's wet nurse, finding the memory altar inside the abandoned old workshop, killing the baby that Ariana gives birth to in either the Tower of Erden or in Yosefka's clinic after killing Mikolash, and killing imposter Yosefka during the Blood Moon, where she will lay on a table in her clinic in a birthing position. By partaking in 3/3 of an umbilical cord and forming a whole, the player begins an ascension to the level of Great One, and with Gehrman dead, Pale Blood recognizes you as a threat to its existence, deciding to attempt to take you out itself. If the player is successful in defeating the moon presence, they are able to ascend, taking on the form of a squid-like creature, and the plain doll picks up the creature, referring to it as Good Hunter, and seeming almost nurturing. This has led to the theory that the doll is inhabited by a Great One, most commonly believed to be Erden, and the player has taken on the role of their surrogate child after becoming a Great One. Throughout the game, when returning to the Hunter's Dream, the player can use the plain doll to turn blood echoes into levels, as she will come to life upon having at least one insight. Notably, if the player is to choose to kill the doll, she will bleed pure white, and her corpse will still be able to be used to turn blood echoes into levels. Doll is owned by Gehrman, and modelled after his student Maria, and has a counterpart in the abandoned old workshop, which is notably inanimate, save for a twitching finger. If the player takes the small hair ornament from the abandoned old workshop and gives it to the doll, they will receive the Tear Stone, which, while only being used for obtaining the Tear Blood Gem in terms of raw game mechanics, the description implies a deeper truth about the doll. A doll sheds neither blood nor tears, and thus its nature remains unknown. Whoever thinks this is precious must be troubled by severe naivete. The description specifies that a doll does not shed blood or tears, not the doll, which we already know can bleed, and has just been shown to be able to shed tears, implying that the plain doll within the Hunter's Dream is more than just a doll, and reinforcing the theory that she is indeed a Great One. Before Lawrence left Bergenworth to form the Healing Church, in a fishing hamlet, the corpse of a Great One called Cos, or some say Cosm, washed up on the shores, full of parasites that the villagers fed upon, stopping them from going hungry, but also causing them to turn into monsters. Hearing of a Great One that was amongst humans, Master Willem sent Gehrman and Lawrence and Maria to Fishing Hamlet, where they slaughtered the inhabitants and razed the village to the ground, taking with them Cos's unborn fetus's umbilical cord. The surviving villagers begged Cos to curse the hunters for this transgression, and Cos responded by creating the Hunter's Nightmare, where hunters would be sent when they become blood drunk, consciousness transferring over while their bodies become host to nothing more but the beast. Gehrman escaped this fate because of Pale Blood keeping him trapped in his own nightmare, the Hunter's Dream. But Lawrence and Maria became trapped inside the Hunter's Nightmare, eternally punished for their sins. But the Hunters were not the only ones within the Hunter's Nightmare. When Cos washed up in the fishing hamlet, despite having physically perished, she was pregnant, and the child within also died. But with the formation of the Hunter's Nightmare, Koz's spiritual form required a guardian, for which the Orphan of Koz's consciousness was used, trapping it within the dream similarly to Hunter's, but with the sole purpose of protecting Koz's spiritual form that held the dream together, rather than a punishment.